we are back with A.R.'s Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am Mayor Mina Button, and today I am joined again by R.K. Gold and new to the podcast, Savy Leiser, aka Savy Leiser. They are both the hosts of the Your Morning Guru podcast, both authors in their own right. We have Savvy with the Forever Home Buddies, no, Forever Home Friends, I'm sorry, series, company, website, whole bunch of merch. And then we have RK with his own podcast, the Grey Gold podcast, as well as Father in the Forest and a whole myriad of different books and things that we covered on his podcast episode. So without further ado, how are y'all doing?
Great. I'm excited to be on your podcast. Thanks for having us.
We're manifesting happiness this week. We're covering The Secret on our podcast, Your Morning Guru, this week. And so, you know, we found the secret to life, the key to happiness, and all of the necessary success in the universe. So, I mean, you pick on us on a good day.
You know what? Let's dive right into that. I have I actually have The Secret. I'm looking at it right now. Mine is in Spanish. El Secreto, right? So I am fully fledged. I mean, my entire family, I mean, it was like for life for like Avon products, you know, the moment they got The Secret, it was like coming home. They were like at the family dinners, at the functions. Oh, this book right here, though. No, it's going to change your life. It's going to change your life. No, I haven't made any significant strides in my life yet, but I'm telling you, you hit this book and that is it.
Yeah, we read it and I don't think it's going to change our life at all, to be honest. I think that none of the advice in it was anything new or secret. And
I disagree.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize we were doing a bit right now.
No, we've made money. We've made money talking about The Secret. So The Secret's improving our life.
Oh, I guess you're right. Okay, so that's the weird irony of our show. So the premise behind our podcast and live show, Your Morning Guru, is every weekday morning, we go live on YouTube and then we upload it as a podcast later, but we go live and we live the life of a different guru, or now we're going beyond just like different business and self-help gurus, and also trying different lifestyle things like the law of attraction. Next week we're going to do like intermittent fasting, and then we're going to do like some workout challenges and things like that. But the past few weeks we're like, all right, let's follow Grant Cardone for a week, let's follow Gary Vee for a week, let's follow Gwyneth Paltrow in the goop business for a week. So we're just like following all these different celebrities and self-help gurus and business gurus and trying to see if we can actually learn anything from them, or if we're just here to make fun of them and their advice is bullshit. So there's usually a little mix of both. But it's been a good time. So we read The Secret this past week. We've been trying to manifest things with the law of attraction. The book's pretty bad, I will say. It's pretty bad, but we did make money talking about it. So
maybe it's better in Spanish.
Maybe it's better in Spanish.
Maybe El Secreto is better.
El Secreto, you know what I mean?
El Secreto, yeah.
Well, I gotta say, that is a phenomenal tagline. I mean, I am hooked if I wasn't already, but Jesus, that is awesome. What has been like the major takeaways so far? I mean, and when you got into it, what did you look at it as a more of a genuine thing of like, oh, we want to study these lifestyles and kind of boil it down into a derivative that people can understand? Or did you generally look at it as a more like satire type of thing? And how did it morph from that?
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely evolved from something more critical and satirical into something more genuine, but there's still elements of both along the way. I think our turning point was probably either Joe Rogan or Marie Kondo, and also Seth Godin. I think that when we followed those people, there were some elements of, there was a lot actually that we took away positively from them.
Yeah, Joe Rogan was the first like not lifestyle guru we followed, so he opened us up to, I mean, first off, we did like the way that he goes into conversations on just about any topic, at least historically. I don't know about him so much anymore, but historically he goes into any conversation without judgment and just with genuine curiosity, and that's something we really appreciated in the previous clips we saw of him. Marie Kondo was the first one that we saw where we were like, holy shit, we can find people who can like actively benefit our lives if we follow their rules. Or not even, no, I guess rules, but I guess steps is probably a better way of putting it. And then I would say, I mean, Seth Godin was big because we actually created our entire mission statement following his This Is Marketing advice about focusing on culture more than growth. growing a culture, focusing on your current customers or clients or listeners more than getting new ones. And that the second you start asking, how can we get bigger, you lost. So I'd say he impacted the business plan of the podcast. And then honestly, I'd say the big turning point was our very first week, Rachel Hollis, where we decided, one, this should be a regular thing at 8 a.m. And two, even someone who's savvy has made a ton of clout currency from on her channel, like by just dunking on and tearing apart, you can still learn from her too.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree.
I was trying to make it as a compliment. I was trying to say, like, this is someone who Savvy has gone to war with, and like she can still learn from her. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that that's definitely been kind of what we've been following all along. And it started, like, when we first started this, we didn't know originally that we were going to make it a long-term thing. We were both reading a lot of the same self-help books, and we wanted to do like a live stream together to review the books. So as we were working on planning our live stream to discuss Girl Stop Apologizing, RK found Rachel Hollis's morning routine online and was like, what if we tried the morning routine and discussed that too when we reviewed the book? And I was like, that's a great idea. But then the last item on her morning routine was go on a live stream at 8 a.m. So I was like, okay, well, if we're going to follow it, we got to have a live stream at 8 a.m. And so then after that week, we were like, let's have a live stream at 8 a.m. every day until we die.
Yeah, until 156 years old.
I love that commitment. It's like method actors. I mean, like you're in it.
I thought you were going to say it's like meth. I did not. It's like meth. You're in it. You're just committed to it. The second you take one hit.
Either or, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no los dos. Now,
I mean, you do have a strong commitment to meth when you take one hit.
Well, yeah, all the documentation that I've read, which is thorough, according to Breaking Bad anyway, I would probably agree the same thing. Now, one thing that I really like is kind of like the takeaway from Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is definitely one of those people that if you, depending on how you hear him, because especially if you, nowadays, Joe Rogan's just like a news reporter, basically. But I got into it like fully comedian-wise, so I just want to hear him crack shit. And it really is one of those things that when you start paying attention to the actual character that he is, it really is like a growth moment. Just like the way that he handles things, like there was one time that he said a quote that I've actually like really kind of like made it my mission statement of like life, where he says that I have really strong opinions, but I'm not married to any of them. Yeah. So like if you come with enough data to like refute what I just said, I'm on your side now. Like I'm not married to anything. There's no reason to go to war over anything. Everything is just a conversation. That's exactly how we've been approaching it, and I think that's a perfect quote to describe what we're doing here too, which is that, you know, we go into a lot of these weeks with like strong feelings on people, but sometimes we do end up, if we learn something from them, that we're going to take it with us into the future. We're not just going to ignore it just because the person who said it said something that was stupid otherwise. You know, it's all about what can you gain from every interaction you encounter or every life experience you have.
Yeah, we even found stuff of value from Grant Cardone, who we both went in expecting absolutely nothing but laughs from.
And we mostly did laugh at him, to be fair. Like, we made fun of his TikToks, we read his book, The 10X Rule, and kind of just tore it apart because of how ridiculous it is, and things like that. But, you know, there were some things that we were like, yeah, I mean, this thing he's saying right here, he's not wrong on this, and I think we can learn from that, and things like that. What was our big takeaway that week? I don't even remember now.
Well, we have a couple from Grant Cardone. The big one was be deliberate with your time. He isn't as like he likes to go for the perception of deliberate by just saying, I don't want a 9 a.m. meeting, I want a 9:06 meeting, because, you know, someone has that minute afterwards, you know that they really meant it for a reason. It's like, okay, but you're telling us to just arbitrarily pick a different time that's not a round number just to appear that we have it more together than we do. So we liked the message. We didn't like the way, or we liked the practice. We didn't like the philosophy, or maybe the other way around. I don't know. We liked a part of it. We thought he found a way to take a good piece of advice and make it hysterical, though. And then the other piece of advice that I liked from a real estate perspective was, and I know that his real estate practices are questionable, but I still appreciate when he said something along the lines of, if it has 2 doors, buy it. If it has 1 door, rent it. Because I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to someone if they want to buy a home and they are looking for a way to also increase their net worth. maybe purchasing a property that can also generate income makes more sense than just purchasing a forever home right now, especially if it's not the forever home that you're truly in love with, because eventually selling that one home could be a much bigger stress than just earning income on a property that you own.
When it comes to like the being intentional with our time, the other big thing, yeah, like the 9:06 a.m. meetings, the other big thing we took away from Grant Cardone week was that we started hosting guests on the podcast for interviews.
Yes.
And we don't do that every week, but we were like, okay, if Grant Cardone wants to have a 9:06 a.m. meeting, then I guess every day at 9:06 we have to have a meeting because that's what he does. So we started invite like anyone in the chat. We were like, anyone in the audience, anyone in the chat who wants to come on. And we would send them a link to join, and then we would just have someone be like, all right, talk about whatever you want. And we just talk to people. And then obviously when we followed Joe Rogan, we continued that because we were like, he interviews people all the time, so we're going to do that too. So from there, now we don't have interviews every episode, but we do have some every once in a while, especially if we're talking about a topic and someone in our chat will pipe up and be like, oh, I'm actually studying this in school, or like, I just got my master's degree in this exact topic you're talking about. We'll be like, oh, wow, well then you really need to come on our show and talk about it. And then the next day we'll bring them on. And this morning we talked to someone who is just starting her practice as a therapist. And we talked about how the law of attraction is not really helpful for people trying to work on their mental health and therapy and things like that. So it was really interesting and useful to get like an expert's advice as well.
And she also gave it some benefit of the doubt as well. Like she said, the way that it shames people isn't good practice, but the importance of visualization has proven benefits. And so it does have that acorn of truth in it that they have taken in a completely different direction. So we really appreciated that well-educated and unbiased view. Which we can't always provide. We usually go that Joe Rogan uneducated and biased approach.
Yeah.
Okay, I shouldn't have said we. That was a royal we. I'm Canadian.
No. Man, no, I think that's an interesting topic, especially like in terms of the secret, because I really think that something like that is more of a thing that really just attracts the younger audiences. Because I remember when I first read that at 13, it just made a whole bunch of sense. And like, you know, it's easy to kind of structure your life around that. And it wasn't until like I matured out of it, well, I guess, quote unquote, matured out of it, that I was able to kind of look back at it and kind of point out the ridiculousness of it. But again, it really is like, do you personally believe that if you had read that at 14, 13, do you think that you would have the same point of view of it that you have of it now?
That's a good question. I would have probably taken it more seriously if I'd read it as a teenager, because I was kind of a hippie back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess depending on how you define hippie, I still am now. But back then I was a little more like, you know, the universe isn't really real, and like life is all perception and illusions and like things like that. So I could see myself definitely be like, oh yeah, I definitely see how we could use the magnetic energy of the universe to attract thoughts, use our thoughts to attract circumstances to ourselves. Like now I read that, like that doesn't make any sense, but I think if I were, you know, maybe 13 or 14 or middle school or early high school, I would have probably given it a chance more than I did this time. Yeah.
And you know what came
everything.
out? You know what came out at the same time that it was basically a derivative of that? It was the What the Bleep Do You Know? Except that one had like a little more science into it. It brought in like quantum physics and all this random ass shit. But it was basically the exact same thing. It was just trying to do it from more scientific approach. Then 10 years after they released that video, which went like viral at the time, all those people were found out to be in a cult, and they all like are in jail right now for the next 5 years.
That sounds.
Yeah. What was it, like actually quantum physics, or is it like the Eric Worre approach of just like dropping random science or statistics in a conversation that do not correlate with the conversation or topic at hand? And he's just like, there, now they've distracted you with all these numbers. Let me tell you why me taking all of your money makes sense.
Exactly.
Basically, it was a whole bunch of, it was an illusion, you know? Look at this hand while I, you know, take your wallet.
Rob you.
Yeah.
First, I just want to say, I wish I knew hippie Savvy, because I didn't know 14-year-old Savvy at all. I've heard of like 18-year-old Savvy being dude bro frat boy. So yeah. That's wild how many like versions of Savvy has existed.
We could probably match each of my phases to one of the different gurus we followed. Or to the moon, sure. But like, yeah, if you wanted like Grant Cardone Savvy, like Savvy at 19, 20, absolutely that would have been a Grant Cardone Savvy at that age. If you want like the secret law of attraction Savvy, like 14 years old, that was me going and what was the there were all those like hippie stores at the mall. I would shop at those and like get all of that stuff.
Was there ever a Rachel Hollis Savvy, or was that like Grant Cardone Savvy?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Like, you know, what, like I mean, maybe like 22-ish year old Savvy, I think would have liked Rachel Hollis a lot more, because I was very into the world of being skinny and body shaming myself. And also I was definitely into that whole like girl boss hustle all the day. I mean, I would say that this is not good, but I was in a phase back then in college where I was like, I shouldn't take my medication because I'll be less productive and less all day every day hustling if I do that. So I don't recommend that whatsoever, but I would say that I definitely, that's why I'm so cynical of all these people, because I'm like, I've been exactly where you were with what you're saying, and it doesn't work, dude. It doesn't work.
I just think it's. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
No,
it's your podcast. I didn't
no,
mean
no,
to
please go ahead.
I just like complimenting Savvy because it's so easy to do it. I just, I just think that it's wild. That first off, nothing sounds worse for a Grant Cardone sales pitch than, man, you remind me of this like 16-year-old girl's approach to business, which I know is just like, I mean, maybe there's a brilliant 16-year-old girl business mind out there, but I'm just saying at face value, Probably. It sounds hilarious.
Yeah, it does.
Secondly, I'm just going to say where you currently are now for the business gurus from an outside perspective. I think you're Gary V light, or like between Gary V and Seth Godin.
I could see that. Yeah, definitely when we're following Gary V, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm exactly like this dude. Like, I know that he's kind of weird, but like, I see it, man. I don't want anyone to think that I'm like trying to scam them or anything, but I don't know. I relate to him. I get it.
Yeah, you get it. It's just you think that it's an issue because like we talked about him on our Gary V week, but it's like, and I don't want to say you think because you're right here to speak for yourself, but we talked about some of his practices that we thought were questionable. We talked about all the benefits that positives that we took away and learned from him. And I think that's why I said Gary V likes. I think you capture the positives of Gary V without those negatives that we brought up.
Oh, thank you. Also, side note, RK is literally the nicest person in the world. I just want everyone to know that. He's the most supportive friend you'll ever have. Except
a dog.
I mean, Chewy's pretty great, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he might have got you there.
Dude, if Chewy like had a Twitter, not like those Twitters that like dog parents make for them, like, oh my god, my dog is a Twitter, it's so cute. I mean, like if Chewy used Twitter, he would be the most supportive person you know.
I don't know if he would. He would just be like, where's my snack? Where's my snack?
That's
all he would be like. He's like, oh, the human's doing great. He'd be like, human, I see that you're working, but where is my snack?
He'd follow great like British Bake Off.
Yeah, that's like all he'd follow.
Oh my god, I just love that approach to the podcast. I mean, like especially in today's world where we would prefer to just look at a 30-second GIF of a person's entire existence and just comment them to death based on that. And what you're doing basically is, even though you are leaning into that, and that's basically like what kind of like attracts you to that thing, you devote an entire week to actually study it from every angle. And it's not just it's not just a cover that people are just 100% okay with, which is ironic because we live in an age of information, but there's so much of it that we'd rather just stick to the headline and keep going on to the next point.
Oh yeah, we're obtuse, acute, right, and everything else. We're every angle, man.
Now, considering that, how do you choose your next topic? How do you choose the topics for your week, your guests to follow?
It had a combination of ways. One being what books we're
dartboard.
reading. Yeah, dartboard. What books we're reading or have read recently. If there's anything current in the news at the time. So like when we followed Gary Vee, we did that during the week when he was releasing his first NFT, and we wanted to use that as a talking point to discuss cryptocurrency and NFTs, and then also do that in the context of whether Gary Vee is being ethical to sell those to his fans and things like that. So we scheduled that week for that. And then if none of that is going on, then we take audience suggestions, or we have a subreddit also, and we will put out a bunch of ideas on the subreddit and let people vote on which one they want to see the most. So like Dave Ramsey came from that. Like when we followed Dave Ramsey, we had a list of people that we were considering for that week, and we put a poll on Reddit, and people voted for, he got the most votes, so we followed him that week.
Dude, our subreddit's my favorite thing about this podcast.
I love our subreddit. Our subreddit's great.
Like, so for anyone out there that's trying to grow a community, go Reddit. I mean, it's literally, it's the only social media out there, not the only, it's probably the most well-known or the best one out there that solely focuses on community and community growth. And you don't know growth until you know community growth. Because like every new follower you get in a community feels like the equivalent of 1,000 without a community.
You are not lying, especially when you hop into the writing game on Reddit. They are savage. They are there for critique. They're not going to give you a nice little powdery response on anything. That is the heat. That is the crucible. If you just go ahead and post your stuff on Reddit, I think that's when you really get a gauge of where you're at in your writing game. I really do.
Yeah. This week we've been having people post their vision boards to the subreddit because we're, doing visualization and law of attraction. So we're like, if you make a vision board, post your vision board to the subreddit. And so we've been getting a lot of people's vision boards on there too. So it's fun. And it's also a good way to continue the discussion. Like if we get into something philosophical or something that doesn't really have an end point or an answer and the show's got to wrap up for the day, then we'll be like, okay, let's continue this discussion on Reddit. We'll make a little post and say, comment with your thoughts and opinions on this. I feel like it's been like what RK was saying about, Seth Godin talking about how you want to focus on the viewers or customers or community that you have instead of the people you don't have. And that's where your growth is going to come from. That and wanting to focus on building a community rather than on trying to acquire new customers or always trying to sell to more and more people. I think we've really got something where everybody kind of feels involved and it feels like a conversation instead of a podcast that screams into the void. So I've been feeling very satisfied about that.
I like that. Screamed into the void. Really good visualization, especially I just watched Watchmen this morning. So I have that like just like a graphic novel painted in my head. So I really like the whole concept of like the podcast and everything, but the whole thing with Rachel Hollis, for the people unaware like myself, could you kind of explain that whole situation a little bit?
What she like my criticism of her?
Not only that, like I'm unaware of that entire sphere. I have no idea what's going on with her or your criticisms or anything.
Oh, so she is basically like she's a business and self-help guru.
Just unpack 3 years of content.
Let's just unpack 3 years of my channel.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I made my first. Well, okay, so we both started on YouTube as booktubers who did book reviews, and I mean, I still do a lot of book reviews, but I do more stuff in addition to that now. But we, so I read her book. She wrote the book Girl Wash Your Face. It came out in 2018, and it was like a self-help book, and she was like, it was like Rachel Hollis is this huge business and media mogul, and she has her self-help book on how to be the best version of yourself and all that. So at this time, I was still pretty new to business. I had just started up my company, and I was like, I'll give this a read and see what she has to say. And it was terrible. It was all just like body shaming and making women feel bad for being overweight and like acting just completely. In the book, she talked about how she married a Disney executive, but then completely ignores that the financial security she would have gotten from that would make her business feasible to start in the first place. Like, so it just, and she never like made it clear where she got money for things. I think because she knows where she got money for, so the whole book was just kind of a mess, and it was all these toxic relationships that she was trying to justify. And so I was like, this is bad. And I was looking at reviews on YouTube, and everybody's review was so positive. Like, this book gave me so much confidence. This book is amazing. I was like, what? Did you guys read the same book as me? So I made a review video, and it was the first like negative one on YouTube. And suddenly I got all these people who were like, oh my God, finally someone else didn't like this book. And so from there, I went about my business trying to make book review videos. But being in business and going to all these craft fairs, I started seeing all these MLM companies popping up, multi-level marketing companies and pyramid schemes trying to infiltrate and prey on women in the small business sphere. So I started making videos about that as well. And then as like the universe converged for me, Rachel Hollis puts out her second self-help book, Girl Stop Apologizing, which is all this stuff in there. Like, here's how to succeed more in your MLM business. And she's like promoting these shitty companies and then going to their conferences and speaking on their stage. And I'm like, dude, this is not okay. So then I started combining those, and I'd like review her new book and react to the MLM speeches. And then I started making more anti-MLM videos where I'd react to like Grant Cardone and stuff, and just fell down this whole business gurus rabbit hole. So that's kind of just like the summary behind what happened with all of that. She's not been doing much lately because she posted this TikTok where she was like, I have someone clean my toilets twice a week. I don't want to be relatable to you. And I was like, what the fuck? So nobody's been a fan of her anymore since then.
She doubled down on the toilets too.
She doubled down on the
I have someone that cleans the toilets. Okay, I work hard for someone to clean the toilets. Like, Jesus Christ, don't they? Do they literally come clean the toilet, say, bye, Rachel?
It's like, also like how much, well, I guess she's like constantly shitting from the juice cleanses she's doing all the time. So like the toilet probably is pretty nasty, like, to be fair.
That sounds like the Trump approach to like marketing and writing and everything. It's
Exactly.
like, oh, no, I just got $1 million investment from my husband. What are you talking about? No, this is how you run a business. What are you talking about? I'm fine. Just follow me.
Yeah, that's I feel like a lot of business gurus are like that. They kind of ignore the fact that they got money from people in their life, or they had some kind of, lucky circumstance that helped them. And it's like, you can be honest about that, dude. Like, just because you had an advantage doesn't mean that you don't have any valuable advice to share. Just like, don't leave people hanging and make it like, because then when you give this vague advice, it ends up, as a reader, I end up feeling like, what was I supposed to learn from this? Versus at least if they'd been honest, I'd be like, okay, well, I can't get that money from a spouse who's famous or from a wealthy parent or whatever, but I can do some of these other things, and maybe I can find someone else who has, at least just like be honest. That's all I gotta say.
No, I hear you. I mean, that's another thing is a lot of the names we're talking about, they also have like MLM connections too. So it's like, how do you get money to start a business? I don't know. Just fuck over a few 10,000 people or some shit like that are at the bottom of your pyramid scheme, and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
You know what I think is pretty predatory in the genre, in the industry right now? Not all of them, but I think certain vanity presses are kind of doing that to incoming.
Gabby has a video on that.
I've been making videos about that, about scams in the self-publishing industry.
Oh my God, it's everywhere.
There are some legit companies out there, right, that do like offer self-publishing services or things like that. There's plenty of legit companies, but there's so many companies that come in pretending that they're going to be a legitimate company, and then they come in and are like, well, you're going to pay us an upfront fee, which they don't tell you is way higher than industry standard, and then on top of that they're like, and we're going to take 90% of your royalties, and it's like, whoa. So I've been interviewing people that have kind of gotten screwed over by some of those type of companies, and I have a few videos on my channel about that too.
Books by Adrian has an interview with someone from Greenleaf, and they claim to not be a vanity press. I don't trust that. I still see vanity press when I see them, but they claim they're not. And he gave an interview, and it won him over. I think you should have them on your channel to hear what they do, because the way I see it is,
which company?
Greenleaf. They're based out of Austin, Texas. The way I see it is, anytime that you're charging money for services and collecting royalties, and it doesn't matter if the royalties if you're not taking that many royalties. It's like the second you touch on the royalties, it could be a small amount. You could say we're not taking as much as traditionals, but you're still taking royalties, and we still had to give you an upfront cost. That screams vanity to me.
Yeah, I think if a publishing company wants to be trusted by authors, it's probably a good idea to either pay a royalty and not charge any upfront cost, or if you want to charge an upfront cost, you have to let that person keep the entirety of their profit, because
don't get paid twice.
They made an investment in their own business in that case. Yeah, if you want to get paid twice, that's just bullshit.
Yeah, without a single doubt. I've actually had people on the podcast in previous episodes, I'm not going to name who, but they'll come in, they'll talk about like, oh yeah, my publishing company, they're amazing, XYZ. And then we'll go through it. They themselves, like, as like the conversation like progresses, they'll be like, oh, the formatting was a little off. I wasn't that happy with the editing. The cover could have been better, XYZ. But they're like, oh, but I didn't have to like pay anything up front. And then you keep on boiling that down. And these companies, what they'll do is they'll take 50% of the claim, meaning that they are taking 50% of the profits. Not only that, but they also hold the price point. So if you're not aware, Amazon's price point for a 70% royalty to the authors, to the creators, is only to the $10 maximum. Anything above that, and it goes down to like 35%, or I think it kind of like floats in between. So these companies will price it at like $20 for the paperback. So you're now getting 35% of that, and then they're breaking 50% of that. So at the end of it, you're getting, for a book that's selling for like $20, you're getting $2.
Yeah.
And then
all the sustainable business model.
Yeah, exactly. And then on top of all that, you're just like, all the more in-depth things all on your end, right? Like they'll like all the editing that's on your end, marketing that's completely on your end, that's just all on you. But we're gonna take 50% of the profits though. And it's one of those things that's like, I had one of my favorite things ever, because she started off just boasting about the company, like, oh, they're great. And then as by the end of the podcast, she was just like, oh yeah, well, their whole thing is exactly how you said, that they gave me an initial cost that was way above industry standards. And then when she called them out, because she used them for 2 out of her 5 books, and on the 3rd book, when she called them out for it, their answer was, oh, well, we had to, make up loss for like previous authors that didn't do as well. And it's like, where is that coming from? How is that my fault?
It's
so
not.
You fucked up on some business deals, and now my shit is higher. How is that working out? That's like a restaurant that you go to every week, $10, and then they hit you next week. It's like, oh, you know what? It's actually 15 because we didn't sell that many sandwiches last.
And they didn't give you any bread this time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no condiments, no fries this time. You're good though.
Yeah,
no, that's fucked up.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you gotta be really careful and look into that. And I have a hard time with people who make blanket statements such as like, all self-publishing companies are bad, because that's not true. I've worked with a few self-publishing companies in the past where it's like, okay, you pay, you can choose which services you want to pay for, and you just got to compare, is this similar price to hiring someone freelance? Is it, how's the quality compared to the price? It's really just like doing a lot of preliminary research and making sure you're not wasting your money. But there definitely are companies that are going to say, oh, it's just a blanket package where you're going to pay us $10,000 and we're going to do all of this stuff, and then on top of that they're keeping your royalties. And newer authors don't always realize that there are much better ways to go about it than that, and so they kind of take advantage of someone's lack of knowledge.
Without a single doubt. And kind of expanding on the idea, do you think that there are any more kind of like predatory practices that people that are just coming into the industry should avoid, like a plague?
I mean, I'll just say, if you want to be an author, I think it's better to try and fail as an indie without any outside help, because you're still making money. Like, It might not be much, but you sold 5 books and you don't have to pay royalties to anyone else. You just got 70% on 5 books and you learned a lesson.
I actually view it the same way, and I think you and I are outliers in terms of like the indie publishing world, because I hear from so many people, it's like, no, everything, you should make it, you got to make sure you have an amazing cover, you got to make sure you have an amazing format, and you got to make sure you're promoting it right, because otherwise why even go into it? And I'm like, well, dude, I wrote Beauty King in 2015, I put it out in 2016, I didn't even know what indie publishing was, I just decided I'd give it a shot, and I designed a shitty cover myself in GIMP, and I didn't know about formatting. I just formatted it really bad in Word. I didn't know what arcs were or how to set release dates, so I just uploaded it to Amazon and hit release, and then just started telling people about it. And at that point, I mean, it sold the least well of all my books, but like it kind of forced me to jump headfirst into the world of all of this. And since then, I have 8 other books out now, and my 10th book is coming out next month, and it's actually a traditionally published book, but all the other ones I'd put out since then were self-published, and I've done better with each book because I'm learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I say the same thing. Every time I publish a book, it's my new best book, because I learn so much each time, because I take on the responsibility of everything. I said that on the last podcast too. I have the receipts.
Yeah, so it's like I put out Beauty King. Well, I guess I'd have to treat novels and Forever Home Friends differently, because Forever Home Friends is not like the normal self-publishing. Oh, thank you. It's not the normal self-publishing route, though. It's like I produce books and I produce plushies and I produce merch, and that's its whole business. So those books are kind of separate. But in terms of like novels, like, I put out Beauty King, kind of flopped. I put out Sculpt Yourself, got a lot more traction. I met RK because he reviewed it, and we got to know each other through him reviewing it and tweeting about it, and we became friends. So
that's worth so much. That's worth so much. Like the connections you make along the way. I mean, Savvy, our connection is worth any amount of royalties.
Oh, definitely, because we built so much together. Like we're
exactly.
You've been my like one long-lasting business partner in my life.
We're closer than that. We're wingmen.
I love it. Yeah.
God, I love that combination. And honestly, like I really empathize with it because I felt the same way. I started up the podcast in November and just like thought like I'd do it just for shits and giggles. And then, by the third episode, you're like, oh, I'm meeting like lasting friends now. I'm meeting like really like kin. Not it's like the first time you go to college from like being like that weirdo in high school, and then you meet like basically literally like a whole community of weirdos. And you're like, oh shit, there's other people like me. And then it's an entire you're at home.
Savvy and I were the two popular kids. What are you talking about? I'm kidding.
I didn't say, hey, you can still be popular and be a weirdo.
I'm just kidding. No, I hear you. Also, sorry for cutting off your story. I'm very sober right now.
No, I'm at the same. I'm at the same function. Like probably like half hour before recording, I hit a nice little leaf. Put me right on the method, right?
That's all you. I don't touch that stuff. Never.
Oh, philosophically, you know what I mean?
I philosophically get stoned all the time, but I never physically. I only metaphysically get stoned. And for all my stoners out there will appreciate that, I'm sure. Because nothing is real, man. You go your whole life without touching anything because of the spatial distance and shit between the atoms. Yeah.
It's just your electrons touching the electrons of whatever the surface is that you're touching.
Exactly. Dude, that when I first heard that I was definitely stoned, and that freaked me out because I just started like touching a table. I was like, no. I'm touching this. What are you talking about?
What about the perception of time? That time is just like a pool instead of like a linear thing. And if we just like
that's what we talked about on our last podcast. Yeah. The comic where everything is happening simultaneously, but because we are characters in the story, we're perceiving it as linear.
Yeah. Oh my God, that put me on a spy right after that. Right after you have like the philosophical blunt, right after the thing, just like de-stress. I was like, my God.
Savvy, how's your philosophical blunt?
Oh man, I don't know. I've been I actually am sober completely today because I've been doing too much workday stuff, and because I'm going to my parents' house in 2 hours to take Chewy over because Tyler and I are going on a trip.
Do you ever smoke with your parents?
No, I haven't actually.
Would you?
Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I've tried to. No, they don't smoke anything. I've tried to get my mom specifically to smoke weed with me, and she won't. But I'm like, Mom, I think my mom in particular would have such a great time. But
give her an edible, like with her permission, of course.
Oh yeah, no, I asked her, I offered her one. And she didn't want it.
Even if it was like candy, like
yeah,
she didn't want it. These are peach rings.
I know she didn't.
How much are they?
High.
Milligram.
One is about 30.
Okay.
So, like, I only ever need to take one, and they didn't sponsor this podcast, but so I won't say their name, but they are a veteran-owned hemp company, CBD company, that make Delta 8 products. So when you buy them, you can feel good about supporting the vets.
I like it. I will
like Forever Home Friends, they also regularly donate to veterans. Like you do animal
I donate
causes.
To animal shelters.
They do, but yeah. So you can get high and feel really good about yourself, which is something that you can't say.
Do a whole week high on the podcast. I don't know which week.
I thought that was Joe Rogan week.
Yeah, but you didn't get high that week, and I only got high on Friday.
Let's do Joe Rogan week 2.0.
All right, let's do another Joe Rogan week because he's been acting really weird lately. He's been being kind of a weirdo.
He is a weirdo.
I have not seen him lately. Yeah.
He's been doing a lot of weird like vaccine skepticism, and it's kind of like, oh come on, Joe. I mean, I get that his whole thing is that he's unsure about everything, but like he seems to be like promoting some vaccine conspiracy theories here and there, which is like, I don't know if that's the smartest thing to do in a global pandemic, Joe.
What you get when you're like unironically friends with Alex Jones, though.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like being friends with Alex Jones is a point in his favor, because while Alex Jones is nuts, like he seems like a great podcast guest. Like,
yes, but you can't say that being friends with Alex Jones is not also. Or like believing and being open to more conspiracies is not a symptom of being friends with Alex Jones.
I guess that could be fair, but I don't know. I didn't know if Alex Jones was kind of like the friend that he was like, oh yeah, that's Alex Jones. We just don't listen to him.
Oh, I'm sure he is, but I just also mean like you can't spend all this time around a guy like Alex Jones and be completely basically you've never heard a conspiracy.
Maybe he'd be desensitized to it at this point. I don't know.
What about Eddie Bravo?
I would love to.
Eddie Bravo's a fucking maniac. You know him even longer than fucking Alex Jones.
I'm just thinking right now, I would love to see that sort of a podcast format. If anyone out there is listening, where someone believes in every conspiracy and someone doesn't believe in any, and they just go to war every podcast.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
I think it'd be fun to host a debate on our podcast.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. And just back to the conspiracy thing too, if it was claymated like Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah.
Or animated like the Rick and Morty sketch that it was like the courtroom
No,
sketch.
claymated. I want claymation.
Oh my God, who's gonna produce that? That would take forever. Claymation would, a motherfucker.
It would take maybe they can animate claymation, like make it look like clay on a computer.
Oh, that must be what they do. What am I talking about?
Oh no, I mean it's just I'm sure people do claymation. I'm just thinking that maybe that's a possibility. Sorry, Savvy, I didn't mean to derail this.
Oh no, that's fine. You're good. You're being hilarious. I love it.
What do you think that what would a cartoon episode of Your Morning Guru look like?
We should make one for fun. We should just have our little cartoon avatars talk for us the whole time.
I was almost thinking like have our cartoon avatars play out a silent film, and then we're having our podcast over it, and it's sort of like listening to Pink Floyd while watching a movie and seeing how the songs line up. Only this is watching us as cartoons over with a podcast over it and seeing how the topics we're talking about line up.
Yeah, I would be like, you're high, dude. However, when you were high, we did come up with the title "Cancel Sean Boston" when you were high, so I can't discount your ideas.
I've never been high in my life.
Sorry, I forgot.
Now, there was something that like really interested me because there's something that I don't know if I talked about it before with you, RK, but the whole idea that you feel like you get progressively better over time. I mean, like most people can agree with. It's just it's like the old saying, right? Practice makes perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I've been thinking about lately, and especially I thought about it while watching Watchmen. I loved Watchmen, and that was a movie made by Zack Snyder, like in like early 2000s. And you watch the latest movies that man's made, including the Army of the Dead bullshit that came out on Netflix.
Oh, he made that?
Yeah, he did. And I'm not a fan of his current work at all, like at all. And it's just like I don't even know what to say about it. But I love Watchmen. It's the same thing with
like if you watch like M. Night Shyamalan.
Come on,
Shyamalan. I don't know how to say his name. If you watch you watch The Sixth Sense and you're like, damn, that's like the standard, right?
Yeah.
Then you watch some of the weird shit he's been making over the last few years, and the dude's a meme now.
Wait, I love. Was Glass the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Glass. I love Split.
No, I mean Split was amazing though. I mean phenomenal.
But other than that, yes, I agree, Sabs. I mean, just look at Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Oh God, I can't believe
they ruined it.
Oh,
he made the worst movie of all time, so you can justifiably dunk on him.
Yeah, and I think that translates into literature a lot too. I mean, you take J.K. Rowling. She set the fucking standard for children's fantasy with Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a personal question. Are you that hip aware to the things that she's dropped after that?
Yeah, but only because she's been so awful online recently that it's kind of drawn attention to her, and I don't know if that's a marketing tactic or what, but like I know like all the recent things she's been releasing because that's the thing, in book Twitter you can't get away from her. That's my best advice to anyone who wants to live a chill and happy and peaceful life. Don't ever go on book Twitter. There's drama there every 10 seconds, but especially you can't get
like a goldfish.
You can't get away from J.K. Rowling drama there. So it's always known what she's releasing when, and then everyone wants to boycott it, which I mean, I get it. I don't like her at all. I think she's an asshole, but like.
I also don't think about her on a daily basis.
So, the whole reason for like those like ideas to kind of put things together was like, what do you think creates that? We can sit back as creators and say that without a doubt that, book 5 is significantly better than book 1. But then when you look at it in the stance of creators that we like, why is it that it seems that their debut or, their sophomore attempt was significantly better than their 8th attempt? They should have gotten better with time. What is it that reduced that lightning in the jar that they had? So
I usually like to ask questions that way. I can never be wrong, but I'll take a stab at an answer here. Maybe I think they probably are getting better. I think what actually is happening is even though they're getting better, the team around them isn't. And so maybe the overall average of the entire team, including their skill, was better with that sophomore, and then they get better, but the quality of the team around them is diminished so much. And maybe it's because as they get better, they trust them more and more and don't keep them as in check and much. So the overall quality of the average on the team has gone down.
I think also it could have to do with
Good
just
point.
what's better is opinion based. So I think sometimes people and like someone's fans are going to judge what is good or bad not based on any objective criteria, but simply based on what their expectation of it is. So it's like, okay, if your expectation is Harry Potter and you love Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling writes something else. Well, is the writing better or worse? Is the plot structure better or worse? Is the sentence structure better or worse? I don't know, but people were expecting Harry Potter and that's not what they got, so they're immediately disappointed. Or similar with like any movie, like if there's a director whose work you really like and you expect that type of tone and that type of action and that type of character development, and then the next movie they make, you know, is the cinematography better? Is the sound quality better? Is the way that they directed the actors better? Who knows? But it's not what the audience expected because it's something different than what they loved that person for. So I think that could be part of it too, which is that when you run out of that thing that people expect from you and love your work the most on, then they compare it to your previous work as in it disappointed me, but now it's not compared to like how much better produced it was than your previous work. It's compared to how better produced it was than someone who's an expert in that other genre, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does.
So I think that that's part of it too. It's kind of a what did the audience expect?
This is why everyone needs a Savvy in their life, even Savvy.
So taking that concept, how do you feel about genres? You know, how do you feel about, let's say that you just pop with your first release that's a action thriller, and then you yourself, you know, maybe you're actually like a really funny person when you go to the bars and you talk to your friends. So your next release, you want to make a comedy sci-fi. And to you, your writing structure, your sentence structure, the people around you have gotten better, but it's a flop compared to your first because the people are just looking at it like, oh, I wanted more of what you just wrote.
Yeah.
So how do you treat that? Do you go the route of changing your surname, use a different pen name to release different genre? Or are you forever now tied to that box that you set yourself in because you did well? It's almost like the thing that actors do when they do their first role really well and they get typecast like that for X amount of years until they get a director that finally gives them, you know, the faith to be like, oh yeah, I'll cast you in, I'll put you in a comedic role and see how that works out.
So I just have never followed genre lines strictly, and I think that's probably been not helpful to me in trying to get a lot of sales, because you know when people talk about like indie authors, if your book is like hard in the romance genre, if it's hard in the sci-fi genre, you build up an audience around that, you get really well known in that genre, you dominate that Amazon category, and you're doing great. I never do that because my books are always like a mix of multiple genres, or like they're a mix of multiple tones or things like that. So I've never really stuck to a genre in the first place, so nobody really expects any particular genre out of me. So maybe that'll be helpful. I don't know. Yeah.
My advice just always goes back to honesty and intentions. I mean, if your intentions are to write what makes you happy and fulfills you with a purpose, then it's not a flop. If your intentions are to make a lot of money, then it is a flop, and it was a business mistake to change genres because an audience is expecting a certain flavor from you or a certain emotional response. So I would say honesty with intentions is the cure-all. Now, you can also find a way to make the work you're doing more desirable by making your ROM a little bit more calm, and just make the circumstances a little bit more absurd. You can always dial it up to 11. And you can make the characters, instead of a cute romance about like a girl trying to find her way in corporate America, well, now she's an OnlyFans model and she found a one-legged alcoholic in Sedona trying to talk to God on DMT. That has the makings of a really funny rom-com.
I like that point a fucking lot. So what you're saying is like, there's nothing wrong with like switching genre, especially when you have a community tied behind you, but as long as you kind of stay within, you know, a few squares of where you started. You know, let's say that your first was a sci-fi thriller. You can do a sci-fi comedy and then follow that with a sci-fi rom-com and then follow that with however you want. But at least if you stay within the squares of it, then you should be fine as far as the community that you were building, especially with everything we're talking about with Reddit. Because I have to 100% agree with everything that you were talking about with that you've learned and that you're practicing right now with the building of the community. The major thing that every publisher, every editor that I've talked to in this process told me is get a niche and stick with it. Find the people that rock with you as much as possible and don't focus on trying to blanket the canvas and trying to get as many people as possible. You need to focus on the people that rock with you and focus on them, and everything will kind of just, you know, congregate around that center, as opposed to you trying to get everything like a madman, mad woman.
Yeah, you gotta find your purple cow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a Seth Godin piece of advice. And I hear you. I also said when you were adding sci-fi in front of everything, I mean, guys, can someone write a sci-fi courtroom thriller? Like, come on.
That sounds great.
I actually had that fucking idea. I swear to God, I
did. Fucking do it, man. So, I want to hear about these galactic laws and shit.
So the idea is that like humanity's like conquered the universe, they're bored as shit, and they're just going past the edges of what we know is like the known universe, just going into the open void. There's no stars, anything. They eventually hit kind of like just a weird type of like, you know, dimensional type of like point, almost like the area around the lighthouse in Annihilation. Have you ever seen that science fiction movie? Phenomenal if you haven't. And
Natalie Portman.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll see anything with Natalie Portman in it.
Oh my God, she is. Oof. But anyway,
I've retired her jersey from my crush list because she always has and always will be number one. I'll have a crush on Natalie Portman when she's 130.
That's beautiful.
You put the jersey on the band on the bandsays. Exactly.
Yeah, she's my Bill Russell.
Well, the idea is that right after they hit like the dimensional like point and whatnot, they immediately get swarmed by like police, lawyers, whatever you want to call it, and they immediately take those scientists and they put them in a courtroom. And what they find out is that the universe, as what they know, is basically just like a segregated jail for humans, because humans got kicked out of like the rest of reality. That's why there's like the Fermenci paradox, why there's no other aliens, why we feel like there's alone, because we literally just got segregated to this little point. So now that we've reached the point that we're able to like expand out of it and our technology is like greater, we're put in a courtroom case where those scientists now have to basically debate for their right in the table. And then as it kind of goes, it becomes a conspiracy that certain people just want to keep them out and XYZ, and it kind of just grows from that.
That sounds awesome.
Write it. Fucking write it.
Do
or
it.
Dictate
you should
it.
write it.
You just gotta do it.
Gotta do it.
No, it's on there. No, it's like, it's not even what it is that I have a problem with in Spanish. It's like we say eating with your eyes. It's like you put a whole bunch of shit on your plate, but you don't eat it all. Like I'm writing my second book right now, and I'm talking about ideas like, you know, I shouldn't even have the time to writing. I should just be sticking with my series and shit, things that are already plotted out. But like I just have all these ideas that like, yeah, I want to work on that.
Keep doing it though. Keep pursuing it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, just like that's what, I don't know. I have a million projects going on right now, but then we were like, let's start a podcast, and like.
You also got a 10x it. Savvy 10x's it without even realizing it.
Got a 10x everything.
Like I love how Savvy's just like, I think I'm only gonna publish 5 books this year. Like it's not much. I'm disappointed in myself, but it's
I only definitively have 2 books coming out this year. 90s Kids coming out next month, and then we have Cancel Sean Boston coming out in August.
Cancel Sean Boston's gonna be the biggest hit on the planet. You heard it here first.
I am excited for Cancel Sean Boston. That book's gonna be really good, actually. I'm proud of us.
Now, Savvy, I've talked to R.K. At length on our podcast about all the
Matrix.
About the Matrix and all the books that he has coming out, and already has out. Can you walk me through a little bit of what you have coming out, what you have out already, and just like your process in general, without going, you know.
All these books are 5 stars, people. So listen up.
Well, okay, so the book I have coming out next month, my next book release is June 8th, 2021. So 2 weeks from yesterday at the time of recording. I don't know what date, how many days it'll be at the time of this podcast releasing, but it's coming out June 8th. And that is, I guess that's a genre crossover again. I would call it like a contemporary YA LGBT sci-fi romance. Basically, I call it Lesbian Back to the Future. So let's just call it Lesbian Back to the Future. And it's a book about it's about girls from 2 different eras who get sent back in time on their 16th birthday and end up in the 80s together, and then they have a fun time travel adventure in the 80s and fall in love. So that's what that book is about, and that's coming out next month. So I'm really excited for that. That one's available for pre-order right now. And then we've got Cancel Sean Boston coming out in August. Cancel Sean Boston is kind of an internet comedy. We would always get like invested in YouTube drama and be like, why has no one ever written a book about YouTube drama? So we did it. So this book is about an internet musician named Sean Boston who gets caught plagiarizing someone's artwork. And so then two people both try to make a name for themselves online by making videos exposing Sean, and they become the first two to cancel him. Their channels blow up from it, and then they fall in love when they meet in the comments section. And then they end up getting, sucked into the web of internet cancel culture and getting exposed themselves, and Sean trying to team up with them behind the scenes and all of that. And it's good times.
My God, what a premise.
So that's Cancel Sean Boston. That's coming out in August. We actually live stream every Saturday to work on that book too. So we've done that entire book on live stream from
everything.
Like even like when we didn't have a premise, we would like live stream us like going through online outline exercises and figuring out like, oh, what's this book going to be about? What's even going to happen in it? And things like that. And we did a bunch of those, and we did a bunch of character development exercises. And then during NaNoWriMo, we physically typed the book out on live streams, and then we edited it on live streams. And we recently, the past 2 weeks, we had our cover designer come on and do cover design stuff on the live streams with us. So yeah, everything you can watch us every Saturday do that.
This book has been entirely, that was the premise that we had for this book. We wanted it to be on online culture or internet culture, and we wanted the entire thing to be online. So if y'all want to see what it's like to co-write a book, you can literally see the entire process online.
Yeah. And then we're going to work on a sequel to it soon, so that'll be fun. But yeah, we're excited for that one to come out. Other than that, the main thing I spend my time on is Forever Home Friends. That's my small business, and those books are very different from everything I do, but there's currently 5 books in the series, and each book is based on real rescue dogs and their stories of how they got adopted and how they found their forever home. And then each book like has a picture of the real dog in the back, and then there's a plushie collection thing that goes with each book. So like if you get a book about this dog, let's say Chewy, you get a book about Chewy, there's also a little plushie that goes with Chewy, and then there's also little toys and accessories you can get that go with him. And then I package it up nicely in my room next door and ship it out to everyone. So that's that business. We donate 10% of profits to animal shelters. Right now, we're actually trying to find our first cat character. So I'm running a contest where people can submit stories of their cats so that we can make our first cat character for that. But that's the business I've been running since 2017. And that's been a really good time. Yeah.
Man, I really fucking love that. Especially the whole thing about the dogs. I mean, I think the 3 of us are like huge dog people. A couple months ago, I actually the first commission that like the company ever made for like another author was an ebook cover of a dog. It was a Boston Terrier with like a little like beret and like the
whole. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, and the whole
cultured terrier.
Yeah, and the whole thing about with that story was that the dog was Lady Gaga's dog that got kidnapped from like some crazy shenanigans, and then the entire point of view was actually written from the dog. So a dog talks. It's like a whole like that whole thing, but it's like not a children's story. The dog is very not PC, if you want to call it that way. It's a hilarious idea, and it's kind of like what I love the most about the indie atmosphere right now. That because there's nobody telling us like, oh well, you can't write that, you can't do that. We're just going crazy. That same author, going on the vein of the awesome ideas that you're doing with the whole Cancel Sean Boston thing, he came up with this idea that you remember those choose your own adventure stories that were popular when we were younger.
Yeah,
go to page 56 if you want to cross the river.
Yeah. So he made a choose your own mystery book where it's that same concept, but it's like through a thriller point of view. So you're going through it, and whoever you keep on guessing is wherever you just skip to that page. It's like if you think that it was, Sean Connery with the lead pipe in the living room while he was high on cocaine, you flip on page 36, look at that. It was like, oh,
why'd you have to out Sean Connery like that? Rest in peace, man.
Well, just popped into my head. I don't know why. I think it must have been a commercial, or maybe that's just awesome.
Dude, it's all good. I was just messing around.
No, I know. I'm just thinking about the actual like scenario itself. Just like, I'm Sean Connery, high on cocaine, and just like fucking around in that.
There's a story of Sean Connery dating a woman or having an affair with a woman who was dating a mafia associate. And if he found out that Sean Connery on this movie set was sleeping with his girlfriend. So he sent an enforcer, and you can Google this. I think it's on his Wikipedia. He sent an enforcer to stop Sean Connery, to intimidate Sean Connery from seeing this woman. And I guess Sean Connery took this guy's gun and pistol whipped him off the movie set.
What?
Damn.
Because this was right after Sean Connery won like World's Strongest, or like what was it, Mr. Universe or some shit. Like it was Mr. Universe. Yeah, check it out. Sean Connery was a badass.
Man, that's fucking awesome. You gotta love when like the actors behind the characters are actually like really fucking awesome too. Like Bryan Cranston. Actually, Books by Adrian was actually told me about this during his episode. Bryan Cranston, there was one time that he was like preparing for a role, and the role was a person that was one-handed. It was like a military general. So he learned how to take a teacup with one hand, take a cube of sugar, and dunk the sugar cube in the teacup and swirl it with one hand, like using just like, 2 fingers and whatnot. So he learned how to do that within a couple days, brought it to the director, and the director said, "Oh, no, we don't need to do that." And he was like, well, but I just learned this awesome fucking thing. We're not going to direct it. He was like, nah, just waste of time, no point in it. And just that story of like how a person can just go to that length of learning something so minuscule, something that they're not even sure is going to go out. It's crazy, the amount of devotion and just conviction, I guess, compared to what you two do on a weekly basis, really. Gotta love it. Just passion, honestly.
Everyone's got to have a Savvy. That's what I keep saying.
Aw, you're too nice.
Now, one thing that I kind of want to end the podcast on, it's something I've been thinking. My God, is there anywhere that can't fit in perfectly?
Your mom? That's what she said?
Those 2 things, fucking everywhere. But going on the idea of something I've been thinking about lately is, how do you feel about endings and plot lines that just go completely left turn? Like in Watchmen, when fucking, it basically ends with Cthulhu coming up. Or in the Cloverfield movie, where she just, the entire movie is like a sci-fi thriller, and then it ends with her being, shuttling down into where the monster is. How do you feel about those type of endings? Do you think it's a cop-out to just make the story crazy at the end? Or do you think it almost has like a philosophical, like, relevance to it? Because it's just like, oh, that's how life is. Shit just happens.
Wait, hold up. We should do something really weird, because this is the end of the podcast. We should do something really weird just to see how everyone feels about it. And then the audience can decide. What should we do that's weird?
I thought this was weird because it was his attempt to make it feel like a podcast again after we had a not stoner rant for a solid hour.
I'm a stoner. I don't know about that.
Okay, what's something weird that we can do?
Let's talk about MILFs. Let's talk about MILFs real quick. So RK has a MILF fetish.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay, fetish. I know fetish doesn't have a negative connotation, but it feels like it does.
Okay, so
this is me internalizing kink shaming.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so
internalized kink shame.
I decided to take I got meta with it, right? Because you were like, how do you feel about endings that take it left turn? So I'm gonna take the ending.
I hear you.
Left turn. Yeah, and we're gonna talk about hot moms.
Maybe we should make it a right turn instead.
Maybe we should make it a right turn.
Nothing's more left than going right. Man.
Yeah. So nothing is more right than finding a hot mom.
Nothing's more right than finding a hot mom. Completely agree with this. I completely agree with this.
Okay.
Because
who's your favorite MILF author then?
Author? MILF author?
MILF author.
Yeah. I mean, I already brought it up. J.K. Rowling. I want to talk about J.K. Rowling back in the day. Okay.
You just gave me.
Yes,
you just body morphed me in J.K.
Did I say RJ?
After he goes after J.K. Rowling as the MILF that she is, and they run off and get married.
All her money, all my personality. Oh shit! I don't know who my MILF author would be. I might feel a little awkward saying it with authors because they might be too close to like. I don't want to say that they're not celebrities, but
a lot of them don't show their physical appearance out there in the world the way that actors do. Like
they might take it really weird. They may be like, dude, I only have like 30,000 more followers than you. This like don't tell me you have a crush on me. That's just stalkerish.
I don't know. I'll say Tina Fey's got some good MILF energy. And she's
big MILF energy.
She's written more than one book, I think, or maybe just one book. I don't know. She writes.
I know she has Bossy Pants.
She has Bossy Pants. That book was good. She's definitely a MILF. I'll give her the MILF award.
No, yeah, that's a good one. Her and Amy Poehler, honestly.
Oh, Amy Poehler's got big MILF energy, dude. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
You love a
probably
woman that can
Margaret
really make you
Atwood.
laugh. Okay. I honestly have no idea how she looks like right now.
Maybe seem Joyce Carol's.
You're picking older women now.
Yep.
Like, not older, like much
Well,
older.
Margaret Atwood, like, didn't she pass away?
No,
Like,
I think Margaret Atwood's alive.
I thought she passed away like in 2018.
No, I don't think
Did
so.
she? Yeah, I'm not too sure about that either.
Margaret Atwood is 81 years old.
Fantastic.
She's alive, and she's from Canada, so I think she's off limits to you.
No, I like Canadians too. I love.
No, you don't. You big liar. You do not like Canadians.
I hate Canada. I like Canadians. There's a huge difference. And I don't like all Canadians, but like Alanis Morissette.
Oh, Alanis Morissette is super hot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I was trying to get to. I mean, Avril Lavigne.
Oh, Avril Lavigne's great.
I didn't even know she was Canadian. That song popped into my head a couple days ago. What was it? That fucking big one. Everybody knows what the angstiest fucking like a song of like the
Which one?
generation.
By Avril Lavigne or Alanis Morissette?
No, Avril Lavigne. It was like the
What, Skater Boy?
Complicated.
Yeah, Complicated. That's the fucking one. That popped into my head a couple days ago. Why I gotta make things complicated? I didn't even grow up listening to that shit. It was like all rap for whatever reason. That popped into my fucking head.
Yeah.
Now, to end the podcast, for the people listening, where can people find you on Instagram? What is the website? Just for people purely on the audio.
Your Morning Guru.
Yeah.
On everything.
Find us both on Your Morning Guru. It's just one word on all the platforms, especially YouTube and
Reddit.
And on Reddit, and on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and literally all of them.
Dude, we own Your Morning Guru. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So just you can follow us there on anything. On YouTube, I'm Savy Writes Books. And so you can follow me there on YouTube. I put out usually 2 new videos a week in addition to a live stream or 2. So you can follow me there. You can go to my website, foreverhomefriends.com. Forever spelled with a U, like fur, like puppy fur. So
a little cutie.
Little cute fuzzy puppies. So you can go to foreverhomefriends.com if you want to check out my business. Business you can boop. Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you were talking about me.
You gotta put that in some of our Instagram graphics. I love that.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna write it down so I don't forget it.
Yeah, please do that. That's great. But yeah, so anyway, that's where you can find me.
I fucking love you guys in chemistry. For any person that's not already a fan of the podcast and the YouTube channel, make sure to check it out.
I'm going to tell people where they can find me.
I know. I'll just interlude.
Well, they can find me at Your Morning Guru, and they can also find me at Savvy Writes Books because I'm always on her channel.
And they both have Amazon pages. Make sure to go and check them out. Multiple books out. Check them out. Review them. Do what you got to do. Support the indies. This is the end of the podcast. AR's Tales, aka the A.R.T. podcast. I've been A.R. Savvy, and R.K. Oh my god, I almost fucked up again.
You almost called me R.J.
Yeah, R.J. Yeah, oh my god.
You can call me J.R. Who shot J.R.? Okay, I'll now hey, look at me. I'm the captain now. I'm gonna end this podcast, okay? Okay.
Go ahead.
Here's all I have to say to y'all. Do you think we'll ever reach a point where indie authors are seen in a similar light as indie musicians?
Definitely.
Ooh. That is definitely food for thought. End of the fucking podcast, folks. Check us out next week. Peace out. And thank you again for coming on. It was honestly a huge blast. Thank you again.
She said.